Aha! So we bring out the phthalo green mega line right here, and we make some trees and we'll pretty it up.
Bringing out Jim
The wreck
Banks,
ship.
Republican congressman from Indiana.
This is the Have You Quantified Taliban is the T national note for, or National Security Agency security stock equipment on an index. As long as they're doing it, it's busy work. We'll figure it out. Well, it'll definitely mass you out with this much just in the neighborhood. I have one guy, cannot do it. Two guys, maybe, but no. Let's get a whole bunch of them inside of the thing and tell them to kind of break down a quadrant inside of an area and find out some basic limits. I need help, Sarge, get over here, and I can't do it on Fermilab time, and we're trying to figure it out, the SCP and the Foundation game over here. And you're the Class D, right? You know, you're gonna, oh, no, Mario didn't make it in there. So I know on paperwork, given what SCP I'm dealing with here, the quadrant of the section of where the 42 goes. Now, inside of this, you would say, again, Taliban being the national T security force or whatever NATO T military model of what military is supposed to do.
Situation like what he has to strike.
ISIS becomes a beautiful standpoint against that standard. Taliban, anybody in that Taliban becomes a positive note on the index, where ISIS is the specific math that you have to use in terms of how you talk about a unit. A unit is still by terms X and Y, Taliban or otherwise, when observed in said wave function experiment, that would correlate to an incident report or how anything under the standard. So I love the cameras. Love cameras. Glad we got them. Hope photons are looking good. See them on. It's good at night. Well, sure. Okay. Yeah, maybe it's 2020. Do the math. Okay. We're good. We're good. I mean, unless this is not good, and then entropy would be N2 wrong for neural net, in which case, if it wasn't that way.
Who was the most recent general on the ground, was there at that time as well, and he briefed us on
well, remember I was like, we need help over in this quadrant. That was the first graph. You, and you. I don't know what you were doing. You're from the area. How close to drive on transition? Do you want to do what? Well, it's an important thing over here. I can math you to do. You wanted to be a firefighter over there, fire control technician, fire chief on the fuse box and the gasoline fire for insurance on a case for some of the laws that you'll need to know under that sector, which laws under sectors, quadrants, and systems of the universe would be like, well, you just can't move causal in this direction, Larry.
Troops in Afghanistan through all of this, and if we would have kept the Bagram
Larry, get the car, Larry.
rather than rely on the very inefficient Kabul public airport up there.
Remember, I'm ranging the gambit from grandfathers with grandkids as much as internal indexes with it. Now, I give you, I'm not for everybody. I'm, you know, reasonable functions on indexes of, well, the cops don't have him right now. It's bad monkeys on something. I mean, inside here I got to figure out which carries the index to that area on the system. So right back to soft. Soft was on quadrants in the area. What was the detail in the neighborhood that clears off the Ace Combat 7 HUD here? You know, so I can actually get inside of there, have names under those quadrants of people who live there, actively up to date, National Guard standards. I'd love to see this in Chicago. We got the gunshot cameras over here, boom, 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 little supernova stars going off in there. Blinkety, blink, 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 blink.
Are trying to get out of the country, and now we're pulling up out of the airport that we told them to go to get them out of the country.
Like Russia and China at the same time in the park, buddy. We're gonna meet up at that chessboard. You know, we got 5 minutes with all of you, and I can just stand back and play all of you at the same time. We'll talk about questions. Everybody bring up one. Remember the Union Boss video from back in the day? Take 10 minutes. Just real quick, do something, and you played the game against me. You're sitting down. You're sitting down. You're sitting down. So what happened in terms of the unit on here that made some guy camping on the system of people who couldn't go through or need to pass something through the mission on the system, get it through? Maybe I could strategize, well, if I was in a situation and I need to toss a hand grenade in there to get Tom Cruise through.
you know that if you have to leave by August
Whatever.
31st, you're packing up today. I mean, you got to get
Would look pretty
everybody
busy
up,
on the
including our
military
troops.
consulate
So
being
the
dried out
movement now
on
isn't necessarily just on getting people out who
the
are
book
citizens and
in
Afghans
the field
who helped
manual.
us. It's now getting our troops out, and now that we know that 3 Marines have been hurt, there are some people who really want to do some harm. I mean, you know that land. How do we get out? Basically, they've created a kill zone. One way in and one way out. And our people are sitting there. Strategically, what do?
Yeah,
You graph
gotta
it.
find
You
a
literally
different
graph
option.
it.
You
Like I
can't
said, it
rely
becomes
on
a
the Kabul
negative E
airport.
Feynman
You've gotta have a
diagram,
military
Euler's
base
number on the
of some sort. It's
differential.
gotta be
So I just said those
Bagram,
words. That means frame for frame as you're walking Mario
it's
between
more
what I
def-
do for the
it's-
stone
it can more
mill. I
easily
break you
defend
down
it
to a
and
saw.
get
Here's
more-
your
it's
saw.
got
It's a
multiple,
tread line. It's about
airstrips.
this
You can
long
get
in
more
here. There's a saw
aircraft
inside
in
of
and
here.
out of it. I mean, that's where
There's
you
saw
have to
inside of
start.
here
But
about
we are-
what
this is-
anything
we're
on
the
the
United States of
pages.
America. We have the most powerful military
Telling you.
in the world, Harris, and we cannot afford to leave any American behind who is trying to get out of the country
So let me cut in one more time.
behind enemy lines.
Please, and please forgive me. I just have so many questions, and I'm asking them, you know, because it moves us forward. And Congressman, you're so patient to let me
Well,
come
like
in
I said,
and
you
out.
break it down. Well,
Look,
Sarge Mage, I've
Are
seen
you
you out
telling
here
me
talk
that
about
then the
COVID.
next offensive, because this is
What
an
do you got?
offensive now. We got to go take
Ah, ha, 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 in town,
Are we confident that
I
nobody's
graph
squatting
like-
at Bagram at this
like
point?
field
'Cause
theory,
that's worth
so
fighting
therefore
for.
I'm a dragon
We
when I
can't
come through.
renegotiate
And the reality
or
of
go
this,
back
there
and
might be
figure
a
out why we
demo
didn't
crew.
open it.
You don't
If
do
you're
it with
telling me
bombs.
you need something like a
Those would be
nut,
the
a
numbers
military
on the
nut you can
timeline.
protect and get
I mean,
airlines
it's
off
hot
the
right now
ground,
because
get
when you
airplanes
factor
off the
prison
ground.
into the index,
Do
it
we
has to be a
retake Bagram?
containment
I
camp
mean, would you
where
put
the
that in the
operation
car?
is the weakest
I
workforce
would. I mean, I
program
don't
that
know if
does
if
for
that
a standard
airfield
model
or
of food,
different
water,
ones
and
was
shelter
necessary. I
in
can't speak
terms
on
of what the
behalf
contract
these,
is of
military
negative
generals and
pi
the Pentagon.
over
Harris,
2
they've so
to be a
poorly
seed
handled this over
given
the
a
last
corn
month
stock
that they put us in this situation.
relative
They
to
are
a
to
tree
blame for
or
what's going on, but
timelines
right now
that
it's not about
correlate to
blame, it's
those
about how do we get
multi-matrixing
over
values
6,000
of
Americans
what is
out of the
bonsai
country
or
safely
what
and immediately.
is
And to do that, it's gonna take a lot
mainlining,
more
what
force there
is
on the ground than what
warping
we have.
jewels. I
We
mean,
can't
there's
afford
going to be frames
to
that kind of
pull
plays
the stakes
off
and
like a
leave. We've
clickety
gotta-
clock
we've
with
gotta
some.
do everything we
Well,
can
if
to
you
get
like
every American out of the
inverse
country safely, and that's gonna
inverse
mean more American military
trigonometry
power in the region
functions.
to get that done.
So you're
And
going to get
it's
into
Joe
the
Biden's
pipes
fault
on
and
this. And like I
his,
said, the seed will
his,
grow. If
his
it grows
Pentagon,
into a
his
tree, it'll
team's
grow
fault
with
for causing this
whatever
situation.
topology in
But
that area
that's
goes
a
through. Now in the
conversation for
backyard,
tomorrow. Today
corn,
it's about doing everything we can to get every
grow,
American out
system,
safely.
and seed become calculus back to
On the
any
committees
one
that you
function.
serve,
Back to the stone mill.
what can you tell us
On
about
scale, it could
what
be
we know
this.
could be
The
next
saw
on the
has a
ground
multi-matrix
with
of
our
bolts
people
that work in the same
peril?
way the housing limitations and the
on
maintenance
the Armed Services Committee,
serviceabilities
we've had several
of certain equipment
briefings
standards
from
when you
the
get
Biden
into the
team.
cell
I can tell
phone
you, a lot of
right
these
to repair
briefings are
cases and
classified,
definition of
and I can
Uber,
tell you, I've said it
Roe
over the
v.
last couple
Wade,
of
the
days,
Board
when
of
you sit through
Education
these
standards of
closed-door,
what the incident report
hearings and meetings
kind of
with the Biden team,
correlates
they
to
say something that
hot
is
and low
very different
charge
than what you hear
being
coming out
when
of the
I'm
mouth
walking
of
on the ground. I
Commander-in-Chief
can't talk
on
about this in
Pennsylvania Avenue. I
terms
wish
of
every American
flying
could hear
in the plane
the Biden
to
team talk
the
about
pattern of
knowingly
things that
the
are the same,
mistakes that have been made,
but are
the
different.
difficulty, the dangerous situation
Certain
there,
things
the
have
threat
standards
streams that
when you
show
test
how
people in
dangerous
them. You
of
go
a
through
situation
them, and then
is
you
that's going
then
on
you,
there.
you
Then if the
recognize
President of the
that
United States told
standard
the
and
American people that
you
everything is
enrich
under
it. You'd
control,
say,
he told us
all right, so
just
how do
1
I
week
improve
ago,
it at the
Harris,
college level
the
while
President of the
observing the
United States told us
SCP?
that there was not a
In my
serious
office
threat in Afghanistan.
this morning?
And it's just unfathomable to think that was
Whatever it was.
Al Qaeda is not a threat. There's not an
Catch you on the next
ongoing
one.
serious